We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a podcast where we dive deep into the world of songwriting and music. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and today we've got a fantastic guest for you. Joining us on the podcast is British singer and songwriter Nilüfer Yanya. Known for her critically acclaimed music that effortlessly blends indie rock, soul, jazz music and even elements of trip-hop, Nilüfer has toured with some of the biggest names in music, including Adele and Mitski. Now today marks a special day as Nilüfer is releasing her third studio record, My Method Actor. It's another stunning piece of work from her, and this time she's diving into the theme of transitions, exploring how people move through different stages in their life and the emotions that come with those changes. In today's episode, we chat with Nilüfer about these transitions and how they shaped the record. We also discuss the songwriting process behind the album and her continued collaboration with producer Wil Archer. We'll also dive into how creativity runs in her family, albeit in different forms, and maybe we'll get a hint at when we can expect to see her back in Australia on tour. Now, we want to give a massive thank you to Bindi for her help with today's episode. My Method Actor is out today, and you'll find links in the show notes to grab your copy. And don't forget to follow us on our socials and check out our website. Again, all the details are in the show notes. Now let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Nilüfer Yanya. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Nilüfer Yanya. Nilüfer, hello. How's it going?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and coming to chat to us on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Look, I'm very, very excited to be talking to you today. There's a brand new record from yourself, My Method Actor, out later this week. It is the third in your catalogue, and I have to say, just off the top, it is a beautiful record to listen to. Sonically, very stunning. Congratulations. How are you feeling with this new record coming out? I imagine that there's always a sense of, a range of emotions when it comes to releasing new music.
Yeah, you said catalogue and I feel like, wow, I have a catalogue now. Like, I can say that. Yeah, I'm just like, I think there's always quite a long build up to a release of an album. We only started working on this record just a year and 6 months ago, so it hasn't been around too long in itself, but the campaign was quite long, so I'm just happy it's out. It felt like it wasn't out for ages, and now it's out.
One thing that I really loved about this record, and I kind of wanted to dive into it early, if that's all right with yourself, and please correct me if I've got any of this wrong. This is an outsider's perspective. We were very lucky enough to have a listen to the record, and it seems like the overarching tone of this record, or the theme of this record, is kind of is transitions, both in, I guess, defining from one stage to another and the journey there, and then also, I guess, the decisions that get you to those different spots. Would I be close to the money, or am I so far off?
No, that's exactly it. It's definitely like a transitional phase album thing. I kept thinking of it actually as a journey, but it just sounds so cheesy when you talk about records like that, but it really does feel like a journey for me.
I can imagine that there is a sense of a journey, and again, I recognize the cliche use of that word. I don't know that you mentioned that. This record does kind of, from the lyrics that are across the record to some of these sonics as well, does kind of come across as that it is a transitional kind of record for you personally, maybe externally from as a singer and songwriter, even just as a person. How are you with change and and I guess those defining moments of, going from one thing to another?
Yeah, I think, I guess the only way I could describe it, the only way I could think about it really is like, I think realizing there's a point of like arrival in my life in a way, because it's like, okay, I've been doing this like music thing for a while, and it's something that I always thought about doing for a long time. And now I've like realized that I'm like kind of deep in it, if that makes sense. Like it's become the reality of it being like my everyday life is sunk in, I think. And I think that's like, it's like a nice feeling. But it's also like weird because I think for so long, like we plan things and we like get ourselves psyched up about things, and making music and making records was one of those things for me when I was younger. So it's like having this like, oh, okay, I actually have arrived at the thing that I've wanted to do. But then you realize like it doesn't really stop at the same time. So it's like, you don't like make it to something and then just like sit there. You just like have to keep going. And then it's like, why do I feel, I think there's just a lot of like questioning, like, what do I want to do with my life? I didn't really think past the fact of making music. I didn't really like think about that.
Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that there is a sense of, I think, any kind of creative avenue or expression, as you said, you worded it quite well, that you think about it for so long, and then once you've done it, it isn't simply that you stop and then you go back to some kind of previous, I guess, kind of avenue. It is a thing that you kind of continue, you build on it, you add to it, you improve.
Yeah.
I guess, and it might be a bit of a silly question, did you know that this was going to be the overarching kind of theme of the record when you went into writing it with Wil, or was it something that kind of revealed itself to you as you went along?
No, I think we didn't know. I don't really know what I'm going to write about until I write it. I think we both just said like we wanted to work on this record together. We didn't really want to work with anybody else. Kind of keep it like a closed project, like just really focus on making the songs like the best that we think are the best, and not like including other people's opinions, which I think is quite a brave decision to make actually. And it kind of showed like the trust we have in each other's opinions and the trust we have in each other, and like shows as like our friendship like had evolved to that point where you just like, yeah, she just want to make this album with you, don't want to. But that was kind of like the only like premeditated part of the process. The rest was just like, whoa.
With a process like that, because I can imagine that there's, as you said, there's a level of trust, but I imagine that that it must be almost quite intense at times to have one single person that you're knowing and trusting and having almost hold in your hand their creative kind of intentions as well. For what I guess it might be a straightforward question for this one. Was it an intense experience just with yourself and Wil, just kind of in that little bubble?
Yeah, I think it was intense. I think I do find like most relationships intense though, like especially when you're spending a lot of time with one person. So, and I think the reason why it's intense because it's like the closest you get to spending your time alone. So it's kind of like after a while of like when you get to know somebody and then you're like working with them a lot, hanging out with them a lot, whatever it is, it's like after a while, it's like you're confronting yourself more than anything. So I think that's probably what makes it so intense. Like, yeah, for me.
No, very, very fair enough. I know. I think Wil has worked on the previous two albums of yours. Is that maybe why you continue to work with one another, because there is that sense of trust and that level of understanding between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, it was like in different like capacity. Like the first record, we just did like 2 songs together, and then he helped me do like the interlude skits. And I felt like I'd really like found like a friend in the music industry and like someone who like understood my ideas and like who I also like loved their ideas and wanted to keep going. So like on Painless, we did a lot of the album together, like 80% of it. But we didn't have that like discussion before. I was like, I'm just going to write a record. I didn't really have like a plan. So this time it was nice to like have that plan from the start. And I think that makes all the difference. Yeah. I think that's, so it's kind of like, it felt like we had still had further to go with the work that we do together. And like, we hadn't like reached like our limit together.
I absolutely love that. Well, look, I'm glad that there's obviously still a very strong creative flow between the two of you. And so I'm very glad that that's still kind of going on and it's how we've received this record. I was wondering if you might indulge me a little bit. I was hoping to ask about my favorite track on the record. I really loved a track that is near the tail end of the record. It is called Just a Western. And the way that this song kind of plays out, gorgeous acoustic guitars. And then about halfway through, there's like some heavier, you might be able to help clarify this for me because they sound almost like heavy synths or bass kind of pads. And then there's some other harmonies as well from like a lower voice and just the extremely cinematic song. Absolutely love this song. Found myself just going back to it time and time again. I was wondering whether you might be able to share the inspiration or where this song kind of came from and then maybe clarify because I couldn't work out what those lower...
Are you talking about like the drums kind of at the end? Like
no, almost like in the second verse, there's almost like a synth, like a lower bass synth or something through the verse that kind of came in.
Yeah, I think just trying to think, second verse. I think it's like a pad or a synth, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Will wrote the music, so maybe we should ask him. But, that's actually his vocal as well, the lower vocal, the one that you're hearing. That's some Will singing, like really like softly put in there. Yeah.
It is a gorgeous track. Are you able to share I guess maybe the lyrical content or inspiration behind that track? Because that seemed to be like from what I could gauge, the transitioning of two friends and their kind of relationship with one another.
Yeah, we actually wrote this at the very end. Like we thought if we finished the album and then we wrote this like last song. So I think it has that. It really does have that sense of transition in it, then more so than the others, because it's almost like we're saying maybe potentially like goodbye to like this album in a way. It started with the acoustic guitar like loop. Will actually sent that to me probably like back in November, and I loved it. Like immediately, it had this like very like Elliott Smith kind of feel to the tone, but also the weird kind of pattern that the chords move in, kind of a bit like disjointed almost. So I wanted to do something with it, but we didn't do anything at the time. And then like later in, I think February, just started coming up with like melodies for it. And just thinking like the lyrics, they felt kind of like random in a way at the start, but I just saw like it was kind of in my head like you were on this like weird horizontal plane. I think that's where the lyric like Just a Western came from, and there's like this like big like sunset, and you're kind of leaving something and behind almost. But there's also like my favorite lyric is like there's no way in and there's no way out. It's like you feel like where do you go from here kind of thing.
Look, I very much appreciate you sharing that with us. It is a gorgeous track, and I'm really excited for people to kind of be able to hear this record and hear that track and all the other tracks as well. I was wondering if you might be able to share with us your introduction to songwriting and kind of where you got your start and interest in writing lyrics and writing melodies.
I started writing songs. I was young, I think. I just like maybe like 10 or 11, I would always like have like a notebook and I just like go home and like had like a whole idea of a song in my head, like the guitars and the bass, and I'm just kind of like, I didn't play guitar at the time. I played piano, but I didn't really like, I wasn't interested in like writing songs on piano. It didn't feel cool to me. So I just had like all these like imaginary guitar lines in my head, and then I would like write the songs kind of like in a weird, well, what I thought was like a structure, I guess. Yeah. I just started from there.
From my understanding, you did have creative parents as well.
Yes. Yeah, my parents are both artists.
I imagine that they kind of helped, not influence, what's the word? Encourage and support a young you following that kind of musical, I guess, trajectory.
Yeah, like I didn't tell anyone about like the songwriting thing until I was like 15. I was just kind of doing it. I don't know if I was doing it in secret, but didn't want to talk about it. But my parents were very encouraging of music in general. And my mom was like I think she helped me stay like disciplined, because I didn't really want to ever let her down, I think, when it came to music, because I did a lot of piano and I didn't necessarily love like practicing or like doing those like exams, but I think knowing that, you know, I didn't want to like, I really don't want to let her down in a way. So it was like I kept going, and that was like a really useful. I think someone's supporting you in that way is just like invaluable.
100% agreed. I probably actually can't add anything else to that. I just 100% agree with that kind of sentiment. Has there ever been, I know they're not musically creative, but I think it's more like a visual graphic kind of art that they do. Has there ever been any kind of collaboration discussed between yourself and them?
Yeah, there is actually quite a lot of collaboration. Like, my mom, like, from time to time will like help on like video sets, because she's a very like really good visual eye as well. So like set design, set building. She can make like anything. She's very like, oh, we could just make this, or like we could just do that. So amazing person to have on the team. And my dad's like art is like so. He's such an amazing like technician as well when it comes to art. So like if there's any like question or anything, I'm like, oh, how would I do this? Like he'll have an answer for me. So. I actually do some of his classes as well, because he teaches. So it does feel like there's a lot of collaboration.
That's kind of cool, though. I love that there can be different elements of things that are shared between you and them, that obviously they can kind of interact with your art as well. And I imagine that's probably a very special thing for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
I'm aware that you've got some tour dates across Europe and the UK, I believe in November and December of this year. As I mentioned before, I think Just a Western is potentially going to go off live. I imagine it would be quite a all-enveloping song in the live arena. For you, off this new record, is there a track that you're kind of looking forward to debuting live or playing live for audiences?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few tracks. I love Call It Love. I love playing that one. I think it's quite different to a lot of the songs we have in our set anyways. It's not like super like drivey, or like, it's a lot more like it steps into like a kind of groove and a pattern and like a loop. And it's going to like a very relaxed kind of meditative kind of space when we play that. It's nice to have a song like that in a set. What else? I think Method Actor will also go off, hopefully. I think Like I Say will also go off. You know what? We actually haven't included Just a Western in this set, but maybe I should.
I'm not going to tell anyone how to do their job. It was, look, it is a gorgeous record, regardless of that one song. And so I'm sure crowds are going to be very, very happy with whatever they do receive on the set list. I do have to ask somewhat of an obvious question, because obviously you do have a lot of Australian fans down here. Maybe at some point next year, can we expect to see you back down here in support of My Method Actor and playing some shows?
I would love to come. Hopefully in the summer. We don't have like concrete plans just yet, but we're working on it.
Look, that's exciting in itself. We'll gladly take that. We won't push for anything more. Nilüfer, we would usually ask, I guess, what they're currently listening to. Is there anything at the moment for you that is on high rotation?
Yeah, there's a song by an artist called Pouchet. It's produced by Steve Lacy. It's called Still Around. I think she has a whole record coming up soon. So I've been listening to that a lot.
Nice. Whereabouts do you, out of curiosity, where do you get your new music from? Are you an algorithm kind of person? Are you friends' recommendations? Is it record stores and just, record art that kind of jumps out?
I have, for someone that like loves music, I'm so bad at having like a method or like a pattern when it comes to that. I think I'm just like everybody else. It's just like a bit of like, just like randomly come across things. Mm-hmm. Like from time to time I'll like, look at like a music blog, or like I do go into record shops and you do think, what's this, what's that? But I actually find it's quite hard to find new music, because it's like there's like the top shelf of like everything that everyone's listening to, everything that's big, and then there's this like whole other world underneath. And it's like, I think when it's like a big record, I almost feel like I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, I don't know what it is. I just feel like, that's for everyone else to listen to. I need to find something else.
There is something really nice, though, about those really either personalized or small recommendations where it is something that you feel like it's yours and you can kind of take your time with, instead of, don't get me wrong, there are certain things that are great for the masses. And I know before we started recording, we were talking about that record behind me, and Brat, great record. But there is times where smaller records are also, they just hold a special place in our hearts, I think. So I can very much respect that kind of, that train of thought.
I think that's, it's like a mental thing in your head. But all music is equal.
Yes, exactly. Nilüfer, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. I very much appreciate it. The brand new record from yourself, My Method Actor, is out later this week, and we will make sure all the podcast show notes have places where people can buy the record, follow you on your socials, see you live. But once again, thank you so much for coming to chat.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.